Welcome to the DNA Advantage podcast, where you can learn facts about your DNA that can help you live a healthier, longer life, doing all the activities you dream of doing. If you want to gain more control over your health and the factors that influence it, you're in the right place. Hi, hope everyone's doing great today. The topic today that we will be talking about is being the influencer rather than being under the influence when it comes to your health. And I find that to be a challenge for a lot of people. Really, everyone at different times of our lives have experienced a time when we just let things go with the flow and our health is not our focus. We're just really caught up in everything else that's going on in our lives. And what I would like to help people do is prioritize health and make sure that you do see it for what it is and see your opportunities to become the influencer in specific areas, not just in general, because that's a lot. It's a lot to be influencing every aspect of your life and your health. But if you can be strategic about it, it can be a lot more manageable and you can feel the effects of it rather than feeling like you're having to micromanage everything around you and you're not really getting a sense of accomplishment and the outcome of all of your efforts. And then it becomes exhausting and you don't do it at all. The first thing that I would recommend is to recognize the areas of health that you want to influence, looking at what is your strong position in health and what are your weaker positions. What are the categories of health that you feel you are less inclined to be in control? As an example, it could be that we have a strong position when it comes to our diet because we are really vigilant about what we're eating and making sure that we have a diverse diet and that we don't eat a lot of junk food and all of those things. That might be something that we've mastered. But we might find that movement or exercise is something that eludes us. Or it could be that we feel like our immune function, we seem to be getting sick more often. And clearly, that's something that we don't have control over if we don't understand the underpinnings of our immune function and where we're falling down on the job. Opportunity to influence that is definitely there. Our symptoms are definitely a good indicator of where we can influence. If we have symptoms of any sort, whether it's momentary, recurring, or in the recent past, we want to look at what the symptoms could be an indicator of. And that's a lot of what I do in my program is dive in deep to what the symptoms indicate, what categories of health we could be influencing better and all of that. But today we'll just talk briefly about how the symptoms are definitely the way that your body's telling you something, that something's not right, or that you need to be doing something differently. And when you look at a symptom like a headache, it could go in many different directions. It's interesting when I see questions online that are a lot of times soliciting a remedy or recommendation for what they should do for a headache when we're just stabbing in the dark. If that's how we're addressing our symptoms, that is not strategic in the least. It is truly just picking something out of the air. And yes, it could be from someone that we trust, or it could be from someone who is like-minded if we're in a health group and we're asking that question, but it's not taking into consideration what the root cause is. And we don't have to know our DNA to know root cause. It's a lot quicker and a lot more accurate to do it that way, but you can have a strategy behind your health actions without doing your DNA, or I would say before doing your DNA. ultimately, you always want to look at your DNA eventually because that's going to tell you and validate what your body truly needs, where you might not even have symptoms yet. And it will tell you what you need to be doing so that you don't get sick and you don't have other issues. But short of that, if you have symptoms or you have a family history to look at and your own personal health history, it can be amazing because that can tell you good information about why you have the weaknesses you have or why you have the symptoms that you have and how you could compensate your body so that that is no longer an issue. Once you figure out what your strong position is and your weak position, and there might be multiple, select one that's the priority. If you are looking at your strong positions and you see that nutrition is a strong position, but your movement is a weaker position, and that leads you to not having energy in order to do the workouts or the activity that you would like to be doing, then I would focus on energy as something that you would want to further investigate. Then you can look at what some of the influences are on the weaker category. When you think about what contributes to energy and working out, you can start to look at what are the influences, what gets in my way of working out, what impedes my energy. Are there certain things that interfere with my energy flow? And it could be lack of sleep, or you're distracted and you have too many other things that you're doing. It could be so many different things, but you have to figure out for yourself what those categories are and really look at what the influences are. It could be other people, it could be other activities, it could be competing interests. Let's say that you're a chef and cooking and creating is a priority over spending time doing a workout. It doesn't mean you can't do those things, but you have to recognize that they're in contrast of one another, or you've put them in contrast to one another. And that's the other thing, is looking at your mindset and appreciating what you're valuing and what you're seeing as a primary activity and what you're spending most of your time doing. If you are spending all of your time doing your work, then you need to reassess, because you can only sustain that for so long if you aren't working out and providing your body with proper nutrition and doing all of the things that need to be done. Doing all of the things that need to be done will keep you in the game when it comes to what you love and doing your work. Once you figure out what some of those influences are, you can either schedule those influences or minimize the influences or eliminate the influences. It depends. If it's a person, I don't recommend eliminating them unless it's unnecessary phone calls during the day. You could eliminate that, but you don't want to eliminate the relationship, obviously, if it's supportive in other ways. Also, looking at how you would like things to be different, looking at how you want this particular health category to be in your life. If you see this as something that you can leverage in so many different ways, what do you want it to look like? How much improvement do you want in this category of health? And what are you willing to commit to it? Because that is truly what is lacking, is in order to be an influencer of your health and of this particular category, you have to value it and appreciate that it has an importance in the bigger scheme of things. So it's not something that you can put on a calendar without giving it some weight. Speaking of putting it on a calendar, you need to make a plan. When you figure out how important it is and how much time you want to commit to it, then you can factor it in, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly. It needs to be factored in based on the level of importance that you've given it. And When you look at what your goals are, how often do you need to integrate that into your life and make the change in order for it to make the difference that you need it to make? And if it's working out, as an example, I would recommend that you do it at least 3 times a week. I personally work out daily because that's what works for me. Everybody's different. If I don't work out every day, what I found in the past was that if it's 3 times a week, I could put it off until the next day because I have 7 days in a week and I could make excuses. It wasn't because I didn't like working out as much as I just felt like it wasn't as big of a priority as getting my work done. What I wasn't recognizing was if my health is compromised, I will no longer be able to work. If I have deterioration of health and I feel unmotivated and unhappy and unsatisfied with my health, there's not going to be a lot going on when it comes to my work. It really is coming down to why it's important, what we value, and what is it going to take for us to actually influence that in our lives. If it's only 3 times a week for you, that's fine. If you start to sway and you start to fail to meet that expectation, or let's say that after a month, you find that 3 times a week isn't getting you to the level of accomplishment and results that you are looking for, then that's when you need to step it up and increase to a higher frequency. Now, if it's something that is related to food, let's say that your nutrition is good, but you want to step it up, maybe meal planning once a week is what you're wanting to integrate. That would be an influencer on how healthy you eat. Meal planning or meal preparation, either one or both, could be a major contributor to eating healthier. It's a matter of identifying the opportunities and then valuing them, making time for them, putting them on your schedule, and doing them on a regular basis, and then seeing what that renders. Does that provide you with the results that you're looking for? We're in it for the long game. We want to make sure that your health is always improving. When we think about health in the conventional sense, very often we think of deterioration once we've passed an age of 30 or 40 or 50, whatever age you've been deemed older. Unfortunately, that has become accepted in our culture. And I want to push back on that because if we are making it a priority and we're identifying the areas that for us we need to improve and give ourselves the advantage, then we need to be an influencer. We can't be under the influence of family or friends telling us that aging is natural and eating what we want makes us happy, therefore it's okay. Why would food make us happy? If we don't have the energy, if we don't get the right sleep, if we don't have the right mood because we don't have the proper nutrition, that's really counterintuitive to think that food is making us happy because we eat a donut and we have that momentary surge of dopamine from the sugar. That is so short-sighted. So please be looking at it more in the long term and understanding that this is a long game. We have to do what's best for us for the long term rather than just getting those quick hits of dopamine and satisfying ourselves with a social aspect of food and drinking, doing what everyone else is doing. It's not that we can't do those things, but we have to be able to identify what is serving our health, what is serving our bodies, and making sure that we have boundaries and that we have a plan and we're truly sticking to that plan. Just to recap, we want to be an influencer rather than being under the influence when it comes to our health. Being under the influence of media and social norms and all of those things, acceptant of eating crappy food and not sleeping properly and doing all the crazy things that are expected of us in this world today, it really is important for us to recognize where we feel strong in our health, where we feel that we're weaker in certain categories, and then what are some of the influences that we can leverage to improve. We can avoid the influences or we can manage those influences in a more structured way. And then we want to really recognize what's important to us, what we value, and what are the differences we want to make. Because long term, if we don't identify that, we are going to be in trouble. And then we want to make a plan by the day, by the week, and by the month to make sure that we are actually affecting change and being the influencer of our health. I hope this was helpful for you today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining me to learn about DNA health. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you'd like to join my free community where we delve into more details about DNA, just click Community below. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.